Hello, and welcome to the second devlog for our interior room generator. This week I've started spawning objects around the edges of rooms and started setting up the object relationship hierarchy. And so I want to kind of talk a bit about how that works so far, some kind of issues I've had and need to work around in the future. Let's kind of get looking at what we've done this week. Okay, so first I kind of want to talk about how the object relationship hierarchy works at the moment. So we firstly have like a component that is the initial spawn point that then spawns everything down, kind of like a node tree in the sense that it works that way. And inside here we can kind of ask whether it's required, we give it the prefab, and then we can also tell it where to search for, or where to spawn. So we can either spawn it at an edge, or like a corner, or inside the empty space inside of a room. Or we could also spawn it locally to the previous object before it, so we can spawn stuff atop and below objects. And so in this case we're spawning a TV stand to begin with at the edge of the room. And then we can also set conditions for where it can be placed, and also what objects spawn off of that object. So we can then spawn like a TV on top of the TV stand, and then I'm also spawning like a bookcase next to, if I look in the conditions here, I spawn a bookcase next to TV stand. And so that means basically whenever a TV stand gets created, I'm going to spawn a bookshelf next to it, a TV on top of it. And so if we run the generator, we can start to see that the TV stand will spawn with the TV on top of it and the bookcase next to it. And if we go change the seed, if I unlock this to change the seed to like 13 or something, we can see that that same thing will happen. Just loads up. So where's the? So we now have a TV and the TV on top of it, bookcase next to it, and the fireplace in a completely different spot. And so this is kind of the basic idea of how the object relationship hierarchy will kind of work in generating objects, where you have the user that can then define kind of the hierarchy of what objects can spawn from other objects and where they should be in relationship to that first object. But what I have currently is I just have a couple rule sets, like having next to or within range, or sometimes I don't even have to set a condition or just spawn randomly at any edge. And so what I need to do now is I need to start adding more kind of rules and conditions inside of it, like being opposite to this object, or spawning between this object and this object. For like, if I was to put a couch, I could put a table between the TV stand and the couch by saying between this object and this object, spawn this other object. And so that's kind of the next real step to take from this. In terms of actually spawning objects, I use the data that I found from my room detector, which I talked about in the last devlog, and then I kind of use a wave function collapse type of approach where I find any possible spaces in which something can be spawned at, and then kind of work my way out from that way. So we had the TV spawn first, and then because the bookcase had to be next to the TV, it then took the two positions that it could next to it, which would be the two edges, so that'll be here and here, and worked out that the bookcase had to spawn here, kind of thing. So that's the way that it kind of approaches actually generating objects inside the room. Now this approach kind of works really well for actually generating like big items like the bookcase or the TV stand. But actually generating stuff like this TV on top of it, or this picture frame on top of it, is kind of having issues at the moment. The way that I actually define objects is kind of as a cube, and then I spawn objects in the center of it, which means that if I ever get to like wanting to add like a desktop kind of console onto the top of the TV kind of thing to make it look like we got like gameplay going on here, it's not going to really work that way just because I'm spawning it in the center. We're also going to have issues like with the bookcase, so I want to spawn books like on a couple of levels and maybe something else like picture frames or something like that. But it's not going to work in this kind of way, and so I kind of feel like I might have to remove the bit where I spawn objects on top of it and put it onto a different system. This is also a good thing because it also means too that I can focus on generating the bigger bulk items like the TV stand, the sofas, and all that kind of stuff first, and checking that that generation cycle actually works, rather than kind of generating all the small detailed objects and finding out that actually not all the objects fit inside the room kind of thing. So that might be the approach I take, and having to define like the space of each kind of like shelf and level to spawn objects on. And so that's kind of everything that I've been doing this week. I'm hoping next week I can add a load more of the conditions in, like spawning opposite, spawning between, as well as I also kind of need to go through and make some of the conditions work with each other too, so I can say to spawn opposite of this object but also within, range of X and Y kind of position, and so making those conditions kind of stack and work together is also something I'm hoping to get done this week to do. But with that, I want to thank you guys for listening. If you like the video, please put a thumbs up on it, and if you want to make sure you stick around for more, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. But with that, I'll see you next week.